Hello everybody, my
Hi,
name is
I'm Nancy
Michael,
Drew. Anyway,
I'm also known as Arglefump, and this is my speedrun for Nancy Drew, the creature of Kapu Cave. Thank you for choosing to watch this video! So let's get comfortable, we're gonna be together for the next hour and 14 minutes or so. This speedrun was done on Senior mode, which is the more difficult mode. There's not a whole lot of differences between Junior mode and Senior mode in this game, except for the Endgame puzzle. The Endgame puzzle is harder on Senior mode. It's actually kind of a lot harder. Yeah, but I'll talk about the Endgame puzzle when we get to the Endgame puzzle. Let me just talk about the speedrun in general. So, the reason why I started this speedrun was because I did an everything wrong with video for this video game, and so I was just playing Creature of Kapu Cave over and over and over again, getting a sense of what the game was like, what was wrong with the game, what problems there were, and just because I played this game over and over and over again over the course of a week, I decided to do a speedrun. I started off thinking, hey, I'll just write a general outline for how to beat the game, and somehow that morphed into the speedrun.
what's a real deal Hawaiian
Okay,
vacation?
so this game is pretty simple. The first major segment of the game is getting to Dr. Kim. So, and even that is split up into different segments. For example, we have this segment where you have to get the keys from Big Island Mike so you can get into the jungle. And then you have to fix Dr. Quigley's radio so you can talk to her. And then you have to play as Joe Hardy in order to get her coordinates for the GPS in the car. And then you reach Dr. Kim. And that's basically all you can do in this first part of the game. It's very linear. Okay, so let me see. What I did here for this first part of the game, I don't have many notes on this first part of the game, but I did note that there are multiple conversations here with Big Island Mike. That is, there are multiple conversations.
You're the wahine who's going to be working up there in the
I don't want to interrupt the game, but I don't want to interrupt myself at the same time. Well, okay, so some things are pretty simple, like this conversation. You have two different options there, and no matter what you say, he has the same response. Here you have two different options here, but he has different responses. So if you had picked the previous response, he would have said something different. Here's another example where he has the same response both times. And here's another example where he has the same response both times.
You're not.
So what do you do for a conversation like that? Well, if he has the same response both times, you want to pick the response which is shorter, the one that takes the least amount of time for Nancy to say. So that was a pretty good example. Nancy could say, "You're not," or she could say, "I don't think Dr. Kim would like that." As you can tell, the one response is a few seconds shorter than the other response. So that's what I did for most of the conversations in this game. I played through the conversations over and over and over again, figuring out the fastest way to get through the conversations. So 9 times out of 10, the fastest way through the conversation was pick the shorter answer. But 1 time out of 10, where he has completely different responses to the two things Nancy could say, what you want to do is select the response which gives you the shorter overall response when you put in how long it takes Nancy to say and how long it takes Big Island Mike to react. And I'll talk more about this when we have other conversations.
It's a long story.
So, what we're doing right now is we're going to the beach to make the necklace, which is what Big Island Mike forces you to do. Now, you can go to the beach without meeting Big Island Mike. If you do that, this conversation with Nancy and Ned is slightly different. So, Ned will say, "The bug doctor's on the beach," and Nancy says, "Well, no, I'm just kind of screwing around right now." And then she notices the Hardy Boys, and we have this long conversation with the Hardy Boys. Now, I think it's slightly faster to have the conversation, that variation, where you haven't met Big Island Mike. However, you cannot collect seashells there if you haven't met Big Island Mike. So what you'd have to do is go to the beach, then go back to Big Island Mike, and then go back to the beach again to get the shells, and that's
No kidding.
a time
I'm supposed
waster.
to
So
pick up
all
a
the
car
time
at
you
Big
saved
Island Mike's.
through the alternate
What does the
conversation
Aikens guy need a
is
background
wasted
check
by
for?
the extra
He's thinking
trip
about
to the
using
beach.
Kula in the ad campaign for one of his products. He wants to make sure
So that's
there aren't any
another thing
skeletons in either of
I
Mapu's
did in the
closets
speedrun,
before he
is
makes
to
her an
try to
offer.
do things in
Since
the
she
right
teaches
order
surfing for her
to
dad, we signed
have
up for one of
as
his
little
immersion excursions so we could
backtracking
get to
as
know her and make
possible,
sure she's as
which is
squeaky clean as she
really
seems.
simple here
Aikens
in this
figured someone who
opening
was closer
segment.
to her
It's
own
really
age
just
could find out
go
a
to the
lot more
beach,
than some private
make the shell
investigator.
necklace,
So you were
then
basically
go back
hired
to
to
Big Island
vacation
Mike
in
and
Hawaii
leave
and
Big
learn
Island
how to surf.
Mike's.
Is that what you're saying?
Don't worry.
Now,
As
when
soon
we
as
get
the
to Dr.
opportunity
Quigley's
presents itself,
camp,
we'll begin some
I'll
hardcore
mention,
sneaking, too.
well, I'll talk about it
Aikens
now.
wants us to make
You
sure
know how
Mama's
you have
business is
to
also squeaky
check
clean.
the radio,
never leaves
and
his
you have
office.
to check
So far,
the
he's made rummaging
solar
through his
cell
paperwork
panel thing?
impossible.
You
So
need
you're
to do
doing
those
field work
things
for an
in
entomologist?
that particular
Yep, just
order.
me and Dr.
That will
Kim
trigger
and
a
couple
conversation with
thousand of our
Dr.
closest
Craven.
insect-type friends
So
out there in the
that's
jungle.
one of those cases
So
where
watch out
you
for
have to do
Coneo
things in a very
Aw,
specific
Joe.
order. You don't
Watch
have a
out for
choice.
who?
Unlike
Coneo
here, where
Kala.
you
That's Hawaiian
do
for
have the
buff
choice of
skinned
going to
man.
the beach
He's
first.
this legendary
Although
guy
technically
who
it's
got
not
half
much
burned
of a
up in
choice
volcano a
in terms
millennium
of
or two
speedrunning
ago,
because
and now
it's
whenever something
way
really bad
slower
happens on the island,
to
people start
take an
saying
extra
they've
trip
seen
to
him
the
in
beach.
jungle. He doesn't like people messing with his island, see? So he goes on
Alright,
these
so the Hardy
rampages.
Boys conversation
Apparently
is
his
exactly
temper
the
is as
same.
nasty
I
as
mean,
his
that doesn't
complexion.
change. It's just
And
the
there have been a lot of
conversation with
sightings
Ned,
probably because
which
of
has
the
changed a
pineapples.
little bit.
What's wrong with the pineapples?
The pineapples have been growing so poorly on this part of the island that people say there may not even be a local crop this year.
Oh
Nobody
no,
can
no
say
local
why.
crop of
Although I'm
pineapples.
willing to bet this Coneo Kala guy could.
Joe.
If he really existed, which of course he does not. Happy, Frank?
Well, I better get going. Good luck, you
Oh,
guys.
Frank and
I
Joe,
put my
having
cell phone,
fun
so
in
keep in
Hawaii.
touch.
Okay, and
You
you
too.
saw I
In
moved
fact,
my
if
mouth
there's
there
anything
because
you
I
need
was
out there,
getting ready
food,
to
toiletries,
actually start
monster
doing
repellent,
things.
Call us anytime.
So the
okay?
seashells are always going to
Okay,
be in the
bye.
exact same
Bye.
positions
See you,
when you
Nance.
first start out. Nancy's actually, if you bother to take a look at Nancy's inventory, which most people don't, why would you? But if you take a look at her inventory at this point in time, she actually has 4 brown shells and 4 white shells. I think they're called like cowrie shells,
Big
like
Island
dark
Mike told
and
me to-
light
Ah,
cowrie
here we
shells.
go.
What you do
So what
is,
shells do I
so
need?
because you start off with 4 of each, you need to find 2 of each. And you need to find the third shell, that one that's at the bottom of the necklace. Those shells are always in the exact same place whenever you start the game. So that's nice of the game to start you off with the exact number of shells you need to make this necklace very quickly without too much hunting. The
They're
Aloha necklace is
beautiful.
on the,
I'll just give
is
this
always
to
number
Mr.
3,
Mappo
so you
and
want
be
to
on my
click
way.
there on the left thing 3 times, and then start the necklace. You want to start the necklace while Nancy is talking. Sometimes you can do things while
finished the
Nancy is
necklace.
talking.
It's
Other
right
times you
there,
cannot
and it's
do things while
gorgeous if
Nancy
I
is
do say
talking.
so
It's just
myself.
how it works.
In fact, I kind of like to keep it.
This conversation
Sorry,
has a few
my idea,
variations.
my necklace.
Now,
But
if
the link
Nancy
key
picked up extra
is yours.
shells,
Thank
she
you.
mentions them.
Hey.
If
more
she
thing.
made multiple
Kaneko
necklaces, she
That
mentions them.
Western guy?
So the
What
fastest
about him?
conversation
It's
is
the
to
people
have
of
no
Kili
extra
Kili.
shells,
They're doing
just one
something that
necklace.
Kaneko
That is
Kala doesn't
0.6
like. That's why
seconds
he's back.
faster than the
The people
alternative.
that say he's just a legend,
So in this conversation,
believe them.
it's
I'll
1.5
remember,
seconds
really.
faster
Hope I
to
don't
say
regret
you
this.
already to
The
ask
rig's up
about
front. Got a
Kaneo
GPS
Kala,
system and everything.
and
The location of Dr. Kim's
it's
camp's
about
already
0.5
programmed
seconds
in.
faster to
Well,
say
it was
that,
nice
hey,
meeting
I
you.
need the key,
Mahalo.
Mr. Mapu, instead of saying, I'll remember that, really. So, yes, I did time those conversations and got it down to like the partial second. Yes, I did. Okay, so here you want to go to Camp Quigley. Doesn't matter if you go to Quigley or Kili Kili first, you're going to get this scene no matter what. Unfortunately, what you need to do is go to Camp Quigley first, because all you can do at Kili Kili at this point is you'll get yelled at. You don't have the entry passcode, or the pass key to get into Kili Kili. So don't go to Kili Kili first. Go to Quigley's first.
Stuck in a ditch. Great. Well, hopefully Dr. Kim
And
will
then
be able to
Nancy's
help
going to
me
get her
out.
phone call here.
Uh-oh. Sounds like I
Okay,
missed
so
a
at
call.
Quigley's camp, basically what you need to do is open the trunk, right? Because that will give you the winch, so you can save the car from being trapped, stuck in the ditch. So, in order to open up the trunk, what you need to do is listen to Quigley's diary entry, where she's opening the trunk and you can hear the trunk solution. So as it turns out, that is diary entry number 4. So what you need to do is
on
just
top of being stuck in a
hear
ditch, I'm stranded
the
in
4th
jungle.
diary entry as soon
Well,
as
at least
possible,
I'm
and
not
that's exactly
alone.
what I'm going to
I
do
mean, I
here
won't be when
once
I find
Nancy
Dr.
stops
Kim.
talking.
Oh my gosh, this place is
So
a mess.
this is an example
What
of you
happened?
can't do something
And
while
where's
Nancy's
Dr.
talking.
Kim?
We have to wait
A
for her to
tape
stop
recorder.
talking
There's a tape in it.
before I
Looks
can
like it needs
rewind
to be
this.
rewound.
Unfortunately. Okay, so it rewinds all the way to the beginning, and the entry I want to hear is the 4th one. If you pay close attention, you'll notice that it's kind of repeating the basically the same sound effect for each diary entry there.
Dr.
I thought that
Kim,
was kind of
are you
interesting. I thought they would have I thought they would
Anybody
sound
here?
different. In any
Dr.
case,
Kim?
all you need to do is listen to it. You don't need to listen to it for
bad
like a
feeling
second,
about this.
but I hit the play button and listened to it for
Interesting
part of a
walk.
second, and the game considers that long enough for me to hear the passcode and memorize it. I just had the passcode memorized. It's not too tough to memorize. It's 64511443. Okay, here you absolutely need to just read everything. So you just click through this as soon as possible, as quickly as possible, and I think that's it. So you have to get everything out of the trunk. Unfortunately, can't skip anything. And as I previously mentioned, what you need to do is hit the power button on the radio just to see the radio has no power. Then you look at the photo thing to note that it needs cells. You can look at the solar power photo thing. Ooh, wow, I'm having problems with navigation there. My mistake. Whoops. Now you can look at this earlier, but Nancy will not say that little bit about it being attached to the radio. Therefore, she won't be able to ask Dr. Craven about the cells.
A winch.
So yes, you absolutely do 100% need to do the radio before checking the solar panel. Okay, so pretty simple there. I got the winch from the trunk and I use it to immediately fix the car. And now I'm going to go over to the Kili Kili and ask
There,
Dr.
it's
Craven
out of the
about
ditch.
those solar panels. Okay, so you go to Dr. Craven, you solve his puzzle. I thought I had lots of notes here about Dr. Craven's conversation, but apparently I do not. My mistake. Okay. Well, the conversation... Okay.
All right, lady, hold it right there.
Well, this is something I tested out several times. You have two ways to get inside the Kili Kili. Number one is to use the card, which is what I did there. You could alternately press the button which says press for assistance, and the person will say, I'm going to ask you to leave, and Nancy's like, hi, I found this pass. I was wondering if you would let me in, and the guy said, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to put your hands up. And she says, you put my hands up? What do you mean? And then the game goes, brr, brr, and Dr. Craven starts yelling at you. So as you can tell, that's kind of a lengthy conversation as opposed to the short conversation you get, where if you just try to use the pass right away, and you just get arrested right away. So that's a much faster conversation. So it is faster to try to get inside by yourself.
Of course she stole it.
All right, that's enough.
Okay, so with this
Excuse me?
conversation with Dr.
jumping all
Craven,
over me when the
it's
only
got a
thing I
couple
did
of
to you was tell you
variations.
the truth.
You will have to
I know who
play
you are,
through a
Dr.
couple of
Craven.
times to figure
I
out
know
how to
you're an
get the
incredibly
fastest way through the
gifted scientist whose work
conversation.
has never
Because
been
there
fully
are about
appreciated. In fact, as an amateur
2 or
horticulturist,
3
I would give
variations, 2
anything
to
to
3,
know
no,
what
I'd say
you're
like 2 to
doing with
4
plants
different
in here.
variations,
But
depending
being
on
a
which
genius
order
does
you
not
answer the
give you the right
questions.
to
We're going to go
lead.
through the same basic
I'm sorry,
information no
young
matter
lady.
what.
Everything you just said
But
is quite
as you can
correct.
see
The
from the
genius
questions,
part rings
Nancy could
particularly
introduce herself first.
How do you
She can
know
insist on
about
Dr.
me?
Craven
read
introducing
a lot.
himself
Like I
first,
said, I'm
or
kind of a science
you know, she could
If
just
you're
try to dodge the
interested in
questions and get
horticulture,
yelled at some more.
why are you
Obviously, that
assisting
takes
an
longer.
entomologist?
Well, bugs and plants
So
do kinda
that
go
is
hand
not
in
what I
hand.
do.
And when I heard there was a free round trip
Okay,
ticket
so
to
we got through the
Hawaii
conversation that
Smart
easily.
girl.
You know, we
I'm in
picked the
desperate
second
need of some
option
photovoltaic
first,
cells
and then
so
we
I can
picked the
repair a
second
solar
option
panel
when
back
we
at
talk
camp.
about his
I
blog.
know you're a big
Our,
proponent of solar energy, so
we
could
avoid
you by any
talking about
chance
his
spare
blog.
me,
See,
say,
with that
9
particular
cells?
conversation,
Tell you what,
if you
I'll
say,
give you
"Oh,
all the
I
cells you
love your
need
blog. Your
after
blog
you
is
harvest at
awesome,"
least
he
a
goes,
dozen
"Oh,
seeds
that's
from
true
those
too.
plants down
If you're
there.
interested
They
in
represented
horticulture, why why are you insisting an entomologist? Whereas the option I picked skips him saying, that's true too. It skips him and he just goes directly to saying, if you're interested in horticulture, why are you assisting an entomologist? So it's faster to say, oh, I read a lot. I read a lot. That's how I know about you. But for the Craven conversation, what I'm trying to say is you pick the first option every single time, except the first time and the time where you're complimenting the fact that you read a lot. Okay, so now we run down here. This is a place where it's randomized. This puzzle is random. So it doesn't matter where you click, you're just going to get a random set of seeds every single time. Now, I think if you want, you could like save your game and try to get this, where you get 2 or 3 in the same pod. That would require an awful lot of luck. Just hope the random number generator likes you. But if you are really insistent upon saving time, what you would do is you'd save your game there and then constantly reload until you get the perfect setup, which is 3 in a row, 3 in a row, 3 in a row, 3 in a row, 3 in a row. Now that's not enough of a time saver to be worth it, but with fishing it is definitely enough of a time saver to be worth it. I think fishing it saves 10 minutes. It could take like 9 to 10 minutes. It depends on how fishing goes for you.
Marvelous idea.
Alrighty, so we're finished with Dr. Craven. Hooray! Now we're gonna go back and fix the solar panel. Okay, so you put in the solar cells, then you're gonna call Quigley, at which point we switch to Joe Hardy. Joe is going to go fishing, and that's where I'm going to talk for a long time. But everything in this game is pretty linear here. Oh, I kind of hesitated at that moment. I should have started going the instant Nancy started talking, because this is a place where you can do things while Nancy's talking.
There, it's working.
So here's something I didn't mention in my Everything Wrong With video, but you'll notice that the winch is down at the bottom again. Why is it down at the bottom again? Nancy didn't reset it down. Last time it was up. Who reset it? Another problem with this game that I didn't mention with my in my Everything Wrong With video, if you hit the help button, which I will not do in my speedrun. Oh, that was a mistake. I didn't mean to go up. I meant to go down. Down is the fastest way to get to 8 from 0. But if you hit the help button,
Nancy,
it will
welcome.
say,
This is radio
in this
to
game,
Tony
you can
at
call
this
Nancy's friends
frequency,
Bess and George and get
18.305.
hints over the phone. Well, that's a mistake. You cannot call Bess and George
Nancy
in this
Drew
game.
calling Dr.
Clearly, they
Quigley
just
Kim.
copy-pasted the
Dr.
help
Kim,
screen
are you there?
from the previous game. Lazy.
Yes, I've been
It's okay,
worried
I
about
totally
you.
understand. I would have done the exact same thing.
I've been worried about
Okay, so we
you.
have this
Your
conversation
camp
with
is a
Dr. Kim.
mess.
It doesn't
Someone
really matter
ransacked
when you
it.
take a look at the at that post-it note. You'll notice I saved it for
Where
last.
exactly
I did
are
not
you?
have to. I could have done that earlier. I just saved it for here for whatever reason. You think Dr. Kim would have left this information for Nancy at
Could
the
you
place,
please
but she
repeat
did not.
that?
Oh well.
Dr. Kim, I can barely hear you. Could you repeat those coordinates, please? No, wait. I still don't know
Oh,
where
this
you
is
are.
just not
Dr.
working.
Kim?
Okay, poor Nancy. Okay, well, in any case, we don't know where
Nancy
Dr.
Drew
Kim
calling
is. In
Dr.
order to
Quigley
get the
Kim.
coordinates,
Come in,
we have to
please.
go to Frank and Joe. So it's kind of amazing how the first 20 minutes of this
Great.
game,
All I heard
more than
was
20 minutes
green
we'll
trigger
see, maybe
rock or
25
something.
minutes to a
How am I
half
supposed to
hour.
figure out where
That is all just getting to meet Dr. Quim. Dr. Kim, not Quim. Quigley Kim. Yeah, so it takes an awful long time to meet Nancy's boss
Hi,
in
Joe,
this
it's
game.
Nancy.
I'm going as
Nancy,
quickly as
what's going on?
possible,
Well,
but it's
after I
still
finally
taking
got
me a
Big
while.
Island Mike to give me the keys to the car
That sort of
Dr.
reminds
Kim
me
had
of
given me
Nancy
yesterday.
Drew, Treasure in the Royal
Whoa.
Tower,
So
where
what
the
did
first
Dr.
part
Kim
of
say
that
when you told
game,
her
or at
somebody
least the
or
first part of the
something had
speedrun,
torn up her
is
camp?
doing
Frankly,
chores. You
I'm not
basically
sure
do
she
all of
heard me.
Dexter's
The radio
chores
connection we had
as
was
quickly as
really
possible
bad.
in
In
order
fact,
to
she
get
rattled off
the
coordinates of
item
where
in
she is
Nancy's
now,
room.
so I could plug them into my
I'm not
GPS,
playing that
but
game
all I
right
heard
now,
was
though.
north
I'm playing
19
this
degrees,
game.
20-something.
I think she said she was at Green Trigger Rock, but I could be wrong about that too. I don't suppose you'd happen to have a map of the island, would you?
No, but I'll keep my eyes
Oh,
open.
unfortunately,
Maybe I'll
the
even
only
ask
map
Big
of the
Island
island is inside
still
Big
waiting
Island
for a
Mike,
chance
so
to
we
do
need to
some
get rid of
snooping
him.
around his
So we need
desk.
to do
Well,
what
if
we
you
need to
find
do here is
anything,
actually
give me a
talk to
call.
Big Island Mike.
Remember, what Dr. Kim said sounded like Green Trigger Rock.
Green Trigger Rock. Will do.
Okay, so this
Are you going to be
is
able to get back
this
here
was
with the bridge
basically a
washed out
part of
like
the
that?
game, which took me a
No,
while to
but I'll be
figure out
okay.
how
That
it
bridge is a
actually
reason
works.
why we're
Because
here.
what we're gonna do
I'll talk
is
to you later, okay?
fishing or making necklaces. Those are basically the two best ways
Hey,
to
what's
make
up?
money in
Think
this
you could
game
explain
through
this
the
try
try
and
and trade it
of
system.
yours again?
Real simple. Over at the necklace making table, there's pictures of the
So,
different
the
necklaces
way
you can make out of
necklaces
shells,
work
okay?
is basically
collect
it's shell
shells,
hunting. What you
make
need to do is
something,
look for
you turn
shells,
it
and
in,
those
you
seem
get
to
whatever the
appear in
picture says
real
it's
time.
worth in
So
Big
what I
Island
did was,
bucks.
you know,
You
I
get
would
enough
save
Big
my
Island
game
bucks, you
and
can
I'd
buy some
wait on
fishing
the
gear and
title
bait.
screen
You
for
go
like
fishing,
3
you catch
minutes.
something, you
Then
turn it in,
I'd
you get paid what it's
reload
worth.
my
The
game,
better
and
the
guess
bait you
what?
buy,
New
the
shells
bigger
would
the
be
fish you
there.
catch,
Shells
and the
would
more Big
randomly
Island bucks
appear
you
in
get.
different
The more
places.
Big Island
And
bucks
it
you
is
get, the
random.
more stuff you can do in here. You
It's
see, a
sort of
never-ending
random. There are
circle
about
of
5
fun.
places where shells can
Everybody
appear,
wins.
and about 5 different
Well,
types
hey,
of
when can I
shells that you
start?
can find.
You can put the shells you
So,
find in here.
you know, which shells
Whenever
appear
you're ready
where
to turn
are,
something
it's
in,
just random.
necklace,
So what you
fish,
would do
whatever, go see
is
Pooh,
you'd save
not
the
me.
game
She's in
and
charge of
then
doling out
reload,
Big
and
Island
save the
bucks.
game and then
You're always in
reload,
here
and save the
working.
game and
Don't
then
you ever like to
reload
get
in
out
order to
and
get
enjoy
all
paradise
the
yourself?
Well,
seashells
if
you
somebody
need
catch me
in
6
order
with
to
lure,
make
I'd have an excuse
fish.
to drive
I mean, in
around
order to
the
make
park,
necklaces.
and on the way
So that
back,
would be
do a
your
little
strategy
body
if
surfing
you're
at this
trying
great
to
little
get
beach I know.
seashells.
game.
You know,
What are
it
the
works.
big
It just
shorefish,
takes a long
real good
time.
eating. Just so happens I got their favorite food.
Now,
Right here.
it takes
Well, get ready
slightly.
to
How
take a
long does
little
it
time
take?
off,
Let me
big guy, 'cause I am on it.
double check here. So it takes me about 15 to 20 seconds to catch a fish,
Whoa, earthquake!
and I timed it. It took me 21.88 seconds in order to make the Aloha necklace. I wonder how long it took me earlier on in the video. I wasn't timing it then, but basically, it's slightly faster to fish than it is to make an Aloha necklace, even though Aloha necklaces are worth $4, and the most expensive fish is worth $4. So it's kind of even in that sense. So I
One to glue
did
it down, 5 to
fishing. And here's what I did. I did saving and reloading. The first fish you always catch is an Alua. And let me just talk more about this saving and reloading. This took me like 20 to 25 minutes. This was a lot of saving and reloading in order to get all the fish I want. So the fish I want is 6 Alua fish, which the game forces you to get. And I want to get 15 of those little brown fish. So those fish are worth two each. They're worth 2 Big Island bucks each. And from here on out, I'm going to cut out the saving and loading screens because that takes a long time. It's just a long time of watching me save and reload. So I'm going to cut that out for the rest of the video, okay? Yeah. So basically what we need to do is get 31 Big Island bucks. We need 30 to go for the snorkeling, 30 to go snorkeling, and then we need 1 more in order to get Big Island Mica Shave Ice. So you need to get 31. So that's 15 of those brown fish, 1 of the other type of fish, alternately just 16 of the brown fish, and then you get 6 Alua. Okay. So the way the game seems to work here is that it's automatically predetermined which throws get Alua fish, if that makes sense. So the first time you go fishing, your first cast is always going to get an Alua. And it looks like, you know, like, say, every 4th time is Alua. And this I believe is randomized, you know, which particular casts get Alua. But even if I save and reload my game, I'm still always going to get an Alua fish the 5th time I throw out my line, for example. That's just an example. Say the Alua fish always shows up time number 5. Well, it doesn't matter if I save and reload on time number 2, 3, or 4. It's still going to show up on time number 5. So that was a surprise. As for the other fish, that is all just completely random. It doesn't really matter where I cast out my net. There are 4 different places where you can cast out your line. Left, middle right, and right. But it doesn't really matter which place you throw out your line. You have an equal chance of getting any of those 3 fish. Except for Alua, like I said, like I explained, You're just going to be stuck getting a lure fish at some points. So I'm going to show off my trick for avoiding a lure fish in just a few moments here. But basically, yeah, this is like 20 minutes of me saving and reloading. Every time I caught a brown fish, I saved, and then I had to make allowances for the lure fish. So this one's going to be an lure fish right here. Gotcha. And the next one is going to be an lure fish. I'm going to fool the game here by backing away. So basically, I'm going to... Oh, no, I'm not. Okay, I'm going to catch an lure fish here. Anyway, that's the strategy for avoiding a lure fish. What you do is you fool the game by casting out your line to catch the lure fish, and then you back away. That totally spoils your turn, so you don't catch the lure fish. So that way, I am not getting 6 lure fish before I get the correct amount of brown fish. That's how it works. That's the little trick for getting through fishing in order to get yourself 31 fish. And you can do this normally, you know, playing this game normally. You don't even have to do like this crazy saving and reloading over and over and over again. You could just save whenever you've got 5 lure fish, and then, you know, anytime you catch number 6, just back away. Just back away instead. Reload and back away. And yeah, that's the quick and easy way in order to get all the fish you need, so you only have to go fishing the one time. Now, granted, this is going to be longer than, you know, it would be otherwise, but it's still way faster than fishing 3 times. And the main reason for that is you don't actually have to take an extra trip back to the station in order to get bait, and you don't have to spend any money on bait, so you can get exactly 31. Whereas if you had to buy $6 worth of bait, you would actually have to catch $37 worth of fish. Of course, a lure worth $4, so you could make the argument that, hey, if I go fishing a second time and I can catch a lure, that would be quicker. Yes, catching one lure is equal to catching, you know, 2 of these brown fish. That is slightly faster. However, you know, I still wanted to see how fast it would be if you just go fishing once. And this is about as fast as it is. So let's see. So that was... Oh, I have no idea. I can't keep track of the timing. Not while the video is playing, and at any rate, and I'm doing this commentary. Okay, so this was this is about 18 different smaller segments here put together. But that includes the loading and saving screens I showed you. So really, it's more like 15 different segments. Okay. And this is going to be it. This is sort of like the second to last one, I believe. Nope, this is the second to last one. We're almost done with fishing. Okay, so what I did there was I avoided the lure fish. Now I'm going to get a brown fish, and then I'm going to rejoice because that means I'm almost done with the puzzle. It's technically not a brown fish, but it's brown enough, and the other fish is really kind of dark gray, so I don't want to call this one a gray fish. Alright, so that's how fishing works in this game. That's how long it takes. Would it maybe be faster if I, you know, did the necklace making? Maybe. It would take me a long time in real time to get all of the necklace pieces, because, you know, we'd have to get 13 shells for every necklace. You'd have to make 8 necklaces. So let me do the math here. 8 times 13 is 104. So you need to collect 104 different shells and then make those 8 necklaces. So yeah, it's really long to make money no matter what. If somebody thinks that they can beat my time in fishing by necklacing, you know, good for you. Good luck.
Joe, What are you doing here? You should be
you
out
know,
there
I would
surfing.
be impressed
Cool,
if you
says
could
you're
do
a
it.
natural.
It was
I
Frank's
did
turn to
not
knock
have
at the
it
time.
in me
So, how'd
to
you like that earthquake?
do
No big deal.
both
Got my heart
fishing
going, that's for sure.
and
Really,
necklace
madness.
making at the same time. I just
Anything
made that
here get
decision,
damaged?
which I said
No,
earlier.
today, nothing.
I just
But
timed how
tomorrow,
long it takes me to catch
she
fish
wanted
and
to,
how
she
long
could
it
turn
takes
this place
me
into
to
a pile of
make a
sticks.
necklace. That's all.
Compared to Pele, Kane Okala is a noisy little fly.
Okay, so we've
He's
caught the
nothing.
fish, and
Enough about
after
Pele.
catching the fish, he's
Get
going to go
outside.
away.
You're in paradise. Enjoy.
Those fish you wanted me to catch? Well, here they are. What do you think?
Tell Pua as soon as I'm done here, I'm driving up to Hilo.
Okay,
Last I
so
saw,
that
she
was
was
something
still trying to teach
strange
Frank how to
there.
surf. Your brother's
Normally
a
what Big
slow
Island
learner,
Mike
huh?
does is say,
to my world,
"Ooh,
Mr.
I
Bapu.
wasn't sure you were
Have a
ready
nice
for
drive."
it, but I guess I'll have to stock the store with a lure bait from now on." I don't know why the game skipped that. I think maybe it's because I had 31 Big Island bucks, or at least I caught enough fish. Maybe that's why the game skipped that conversation. I don't know why. Honestly, it's a time saver. Yeah, if the game skips a
So,
conversation,
if
I don't
were
know why it
Green
skipped the
Trigger
conversation
Rock,
there.
Where would I be? Wait a minute. Three-finger rock.
Alrighty,
That's what that
so
phone doctor
we're
must have said.
finally gonna
Three-finger
finish
rock.
with this and
I gotta
finally get
call
to
Nancy with
Quigley.
these coordinates.
You have reached Nancy.
Yeah, so now that I'm thinking about it, so what did I say? It took me 22 seconds in order to make a necklace, and then,
Hey, Nance. Good news.
you know,
I
15
figured
to
out that
17
Dr.
seconds
Kim
to catch a
isn't at Green
fish.
Trigger Rock. She's at
Well, I have to
Three-Finger
make
Rock.
I
The
mean,
coordinates
catch a lot
are
more fish
north
than I have to
19
make
degrees,
necklaces,
24
so
hours,
it could
42
be
minutes.
faster
By
to make
west,
necklaces.
155 degrees, 9 hours, 1
Now
minute.
I'm doubting myself. Now I'm doubting myself. Oh well,
Hey.
I'm not gonna go back and re-record. That took forever. That took
Hey,
forever.
Nance,
I'm not
good
going
news.
back and
I
re-recording.
figured out that Dr. Kim isn't at Green Trigger Rock. She's at
Fortunately,
Green
Johnny Kudo
Finger
waited
Rock.
for Joe to finish his
Coordinates
phone
are
conversation
north
before
19
knocking
degrees,
him
24
unconscious.
hours, 42 minutes.
So,
By
you'll notice
west,
what happened here
155
is that
degrees,
Nancy
9 hours,
shifted
1 minute.
positions. She was inside the tent when she called the Hardy
Thank you,
Boys.
Joe.
Now she's outside the tent. That's what happens in this game. If Nancy is in a particular area, she generally moves to the start of that area. So if she's inside the Kili Kili, if she calls from anywhere inside the Kili Kili, she will be moved to outside the Kili Kili. And here I kind of made a mistake entering the coordinates. What you have to do is just wait a couple of seconds before you can type in the coordinates. I forgot to hit the tab button in between every single coordinate the first time. So I got halfway through and like, wait, how come nothing's working? And it's like, oh, that's right, there's a tab button. Okay, so I think I also kind of made a minor mistake there with not clicking the three-finger rock as quickly as possible. As soon as you enter something in the GPS, there's still a couple of seconds before you can click on it and go to that location. Game's kind of touchy there. Here I'm picking up the Frass. I pick up the Frass on the way to Dr. Quigley. You could do it now, you could do it later. It doesn't really matter when you do it, just as long as you do it. You have to have all 5 baggies of Frass. I think it's 6. All 6 of them before you can solve the Frass puzzle correctly. The game double checks to make sure you have collected all 6 bags. It checks to make sure you've collected all 6 bags. It checks to make sure that you have fixed the microscope. And that's it. That's it. It doesn't check to make sure that you actually looked at the Frass under the microscope.
Hello?
Interestingly enough.
Are you Dr. Kim?
Okay, so this first conversation with Quigley is about 2 minutes long. There are over 8 different
Your timing
variations.
couldn't be better. Nancy Drew, I presume? You're Dr. Kim?
So, let me see.
Just call me Quigley. Hearing someone call me
We
Dr.
only have
Kim
3
makes me think of my
places where we
father.
can make
He was a
conversations, I
herpetologist who
believe.
collected snakes, whereas I, from
So
a
she
very
goes on
young
2
age,
different
collected
digressions.
insects,
One's
a
about
hobby
her
which he
father, and one is
wholeheartedly
about
endorsed.
wasps. So you
Of
control
course,
which
this was
digression
because he was
happens
secretly
first.
feeding my insects to his
And
snakes.
it's faster
And
to
this
do
day,
the
I
digression
hate
about
snakes.
her father.
There are no
This
snakes in
this
Hawaii, you
digression
know.
right
No,
here.
native
So it's faster to
species
have
at
the
least.
father rant as opposed to the
Nuts.
bug rant
If you're
first.
going to work for
That's
me, you
because the
cannot let this
transition.
happen.
That's because of the transition in between the 2
What
rants.
happened?
So
In
the
case you
transition
hadn't
from
noticed, I'm
bug
totally
rant
off
to
subject
dad
here.
rant
I have a
is
very bad
yeah,
habit of
something's wrong.
digressing.
I no
So
longer
from
have
here
any
on out,
idea what I'm
it's your
talking
job to
about,
keep me
and
on
please
task
call me
and focused.
Quigley. Calling me
Understood?
Dr. Kim reminds me of my
Okay,
father.
Good. Now, I'm
So
rotated
that
this
right
tree
there
so I
was
can
her
observe a
transition
nest
from
of
dad
parasitic
rant to bug
wasps.
rant.
I
Good
believe it's a nest
now.
of Pristomeris
2 words.
hawaiianus. But
As
Kanaka
opposed
aren't
to
really
a
helping, so I could
3-sentence
be wrong.
transition. So
As
that's
you know,
why it
I'm
was
much more
faster.
interested in
It was
Lepidoptera,
faster
the
to
larva
do
which
the
many
dad
wasps
rant
prey
first.
upon.
Okay, so
Specifically,
that makes
I'm
sense.
studying Norsabeta
Okay, so after the
oregonda,
dad
which,
rant, she
interestingly
tells you
enough,
to
are
stop her
carnivores
from
themselves.
digressing.
Now, to
So
my
this
knowledge,
means
the
you have to
ignomoniid
stop her
wasps
bug
I'm
rant
observing
digression.
do not parasitize
So
the larva
this is
of the
going to be a pretty
Norsabeta,
simple
although
choice
I-
here. If you order her to stop right now,
Nancy, I'm digressing
she
here, am I
does.
not?
Oh,
If you
I'm
select that
sorry.
second option,
Uh,
which is a
stop
really
it
long
right now.
sentence,
Right.
she
Well,
will
let's
say,
get to work,
"Oh,
shall we?
okay,
Where's the
but
clipboard?"
don't let it happen again."
What clipboard?
So
I told you to bring my
obviously the
clipboard
fastest way
when
to
we
the conversation
talked
is
on
to
the
pick the second
radio.
option, then
Look,
the first
I'll
option,
go back and
and
get
then the
it,
second
okay?
option. So this
I
is
don't
about
know,
1 minute
Nancy,
and
you're
44
getting off
seconds
to
in
a
length.
pretty shaky
And
start
the
here.
other variations of the conversation, I just did all of them separately. The majority of them were about an hour,
Oh,
I mean
shoot.
1
I
minute
forgot
and
to tell you that
58
somebody
seconds.
trashed your camp.
So yeah, it's about 14 seconds faster than the average to go through the conversation this way. So at this point, Quigley sends you back to camp for a quick clipboard. Turns out you can't look at the clipboard earlier. Well, you can't look at the clipboard at this point, and you can't look at the microscope at this point. I was hoping to save time by looking at those things early, but no, you cannot. So you can't do any of the Frass puzzle early, besides for grabbing those pieces of Frass, which is what I did. Okay, kind of bothersome.
Must be
There,
Dr.
kind of
Kim's
made a mistake
notes.
there with,
Whew,
I
looks
should
like
have
Greek to me.
U-turned immediately to grab the thing, to grab the clipboard. So a minor mistake with navigation there. Whenever you leave Quigley's camp, it's always faster to click on the car as opposed to turning left and then clicking on the car. So it takes a while for Nancy to walk from here to Quigley's place. It doesn't take very long, but it's still the longest journey of the game. And so I skipped this journey with the Nancy phone call to the Hardy Boys. Technically, what you're supposed to do is call the Hardy Boys later, and let me talk about
You've got
this
my
here.
clipboard. Good. Let me have it. The first page is gone.
So this
Why'd you tear it
conversation is
off?
easier than the first
I
one.
didn't tear it
Nancy
off.
can ask,
Then
do you have
where
any
is it?
idea who trashed
I
your
don't
camp?
know.
Or
Nancy,
she could say, I
asked
tried
you
to tell you over
get
the
my
radio, but the
clipboard.
transmission
How
kept
could you
breaking
screw
up.
something as simple as
And
that?
then when Quigley tells
I
Nancy to
didn't
collect
tear that
data,
page off.
Nancy can either
Whoever
agree
trashed
or
your
ask what
camp
kind of
did.
data is needed.
Trash my camp.
So there's
What are
only
you
4
talking
variations
about?
of this
When I
conversation.
got there, your
It's
camp
faster
was
to
a
pick
mess.
option
It
1
still
first
is.
and then
It's like
option
someone came
2
in
second.
And just tore the place apart.
Oh,
So that's
Do you
simple.
have any idea who did it?
no. Well, life goes on. That missing page was critical, but fortunately, it was not irreplaceable.
So
I'll
let me
just have
see.
to
I'm going to
collect
do
and
a
analyze
little
all the
bit
data
of the
again.
Frass
Or
puzzle.
should I
No,
say,
I'm not. I'm going to go
you'll
straight to
have
the Hardy Boys. Like I said,
What kind of data?
this is the fastest
You'll need to locate all my
journey that
Frass
Nancy
jars and
takes.
empty
The
each one
longest
into a
journey
color-coded
Nancy
baggie.
takes in
Each
the
jar
game.
will
The
have
longest
baggies
journey
hanging
is the
nearby.
walk to
Then return
Quigley.
to my base camp, sort the
And
contents, record your counts,
so
run them through my formula, and
that's
report
why
back
I
to me.
decided to skip it with the
Could
Hardy
you maybe
Boys
repeat
call.
that?
It's all
Basically,
on
by
the
calling the
clipboard.
Hardy
Just do exactly
Boys,
what my
and
notes
the Hardy
say, and
Boys
you'll be
will
fine.
call Nancy
Don't
back.
breathe a
Basically,
word of
Frank
this
is
to
going to
anyone,
call
but
Nancy
I'm
back
on
once
the
he sees the
verge of
map.
making a
So
huge
Nancy's going to
discovery
skip
here,
from
Nancy.
this
Huge.
area with
If the
Quigley
figure you
to
arrive at confirms the one I
almost
arrived
to
at
her
yesterday,
car.
we are talking
So
major,
that saves me as much time as
worldwide
possible with the phone
fame.
call.
We'll be on Oprah,
The game
late-night talk shows. Somebody might
expects
even
you
make
to
a
go to
movie
Kapu
about
Cave,
this.
walk all the
In
way up to
fact, I
Kapu
met this
Cave,
producer
and
when I
see
was
the
in LA
face,
last year.
at which point
Well, he
Nancy will
hasn't produced
automatically
anything
call
yet, but
Frank,
he has this
and
thing about
the game will
butterflies,
switch
so
over to
as you
him.
can
That's what the
imagine,
game
we hit it off.
expects you to do.
What?
But
digressing?
I'm not doing
Oh,
that.
right.
For
Well,
two
just
reasons.
get
As I
going. I'll give you a
explained,
whole scoop after you do that
I'm
analysis. Save
saving
unfortunate
myself some
weight.
time
Woo!
getting all the way back to Nancy's car. Number 2, if you go all the way to Kapu Cave, there's going to be it triggers a conversation with Quigley about the spider's webs at Kapu Cave. So by not going to Kapu Cave and not seeing
Hello?
the spider
Frank?
webs,
Well,
I
hi,
avoid
it's
that
Nancy.
optional conversation
Sorry,
with Dr.
guess I
Quibb.
expected Joe to answer.
Well, as it happens, Joe's at the clinic getting treated for a concussion.
Alrighty, so okay,
What?
so we're switching
What
to
happened?
Frank.
Someone jumped him while he was poking around Big Island Mike's immersion center. Just after he left that message for you.
Okay,
in
when you
fact.
call Frank Hardy,
Turned
you can
around
ask
and
who
wham!
attacked
He was
Joe,
knocked
4
unconscious by
seconds
someone
faster than
swinging a
asking
big
if
wooden
Joe's going to
mat.
be
So you
okay.
don't know who did it?
So, showing concern
So
for
what's going on
Joe
with you?
wastes
Well, let's
time.
see.
That feels really awful to say.
This Quigley
It's a
lady
total
sounds
waste
like
of
she's gonna
time
be a
in
real
order to feel
taskmaster.
bad for
Anything I can do
Joe.
to help?
Nope. So far, so good.
Okay,
What Frank
but
says
if you
here
change your mind, just let me
changes
know.
depending
I
on what
will.
point you
So
are
how are
at
you
in
doing?
the
I'm trying to
Frass
figure out
puzzle.
whether what happened to
Because you
Joe
could do
was
this
just bad
later,
luck,
you could do this
or whether
earlier.
there's more going on around here than meets the eye.
Well, if there's anything I can do for you, just holler.
Deal. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Okay. So, so what you want to do here is you're gonna pick up the receipt and then leave. So, basically what we're trying to do is trigger a conversation with Pua. So, it took me a while to figure out what you're supposed to do. Basically, I just saw, okay, what do...
I found a receipt from your
basically,
shop
I just
that
played through the
somebody
game
dropped.
for about
I'd
10
kinda
minutes
like to find
until
that
I could
person,
trigger the
so I just
conversation with
wondered if you
Pua.
could maybe tell
And I
me
just
who
took
you
note
wrote
of
it
what
out
I
to.
did. It's like, okay, could I cut out this thing?
It's receipt
Could I cut out that thing?
number
Like, you know, could I cut out talking to could I cut out talking to Big Island Mike about the receipt? Yes! Yes, you totally can. Could I call out talking to Richard Akins? Yeah, that's totally possible to skip too. Turns out that the one thing you can't skip is this conversation with the pawnbroker. You absolutely do need to talk to the pawnbroker about Johnny Kudo. And you absolutely need to talk to him about Big Island Mike's specifically.
Gave me his cell phone number too, but he never picks up.
Do you have any idea why Johnny Kudo
So
would be
this
hanging around a
conversation
business called
option right
Big
here,
Island Mike's
that's going to
Immersion
trigger the
Excursions?
conversation with Pua. And this will allow me, since I have all the snorkeling equipment, this will allow me to do the entire Pua conversation in one go.
Hey,
I won't
I
have
really
to visit
appreciate
Pua
your
multiple
help.
times. I'm only going to talk to her the once. So that's obviously time saver. I don't have to go back and talk to her multiple
Hey, Frank,
times. I
how's
only
Joe
talk to her
doing?
once.
He's still at the clinic, but he'll be fine.
Okay, this
Nothing like
conversation
that's
was
ever happened to a
pretty
guest
easy
before,
to
You're
get
not gonna,
through.
like, sue us or anything, are you?
Nah.
That's a relief.
Is it
To
true
do
you'll
so,
buy
it's
these
5
fish from me?
seconds faster
Let's
to
see.
say Joe will be
Looking
fine,
good.
and it's
There you go.
14 seconds faster to say that you're not going to sue. And we already saw that part in the conversation. So later on in the conversation, we're going to ask about the chamber. It's 1 second faster to ask what she's waiting
Okay,
for,
what else?
and it's going to be 5 seconds
I
faster
could rent
to
some
agree
snorkeling equipment?
not to
As long
tell
as
the
you've got
police.
30 Big Island bucks, you can.
So that's the
There you
timing
go.
for the first part of the
And there you
conversation,
go.
and the
This
timing
dry
for the
bag is
second
great.
part of the
I can
conversation.
keep my clothes with me while I'm snorkeling.
Need anything else?
I'm not sure how to tell you
Yeah,
this,
and this is
but
the
I
line
have
of
reason to
conversation
believe
which
your
was
dad is
triggered by the
involved in
conversation
something
with
he
the
shouldn't be.
pawnbroker.
What do you mean? Like what?
Like hiding or maybe even fencing stolen property for someone.
What?
Look, it's a real long story.
It's
and I
not a
can't
real
prove
long
anything, so
story.
you
It's a
don't really
rather
have to
short
worry.
story.
But
It
if
took
he
you less
was,
than a
say,
minute to
trying to hide a
figure
bunch
it
of stuff
out.
for somebody, where do you suppose
Yeah,
he'd
there's
put
a
it?
suspicious
gosh,
person who
the
showed up and
chamber.
attacked my
That's what
brother,
he's
and
been
she already
doing in
knows
there.
about the suspicious
This
person
island
who
is
attacked your
riddled
brother.
with lava
You really
tubes,
could have told the
tunnels made
entire
by
story
ancient
there, Frank.
volcanoes. They go all
But
over
I
the
guess
place.
he
My
didn't
dad
want
knows
to
them
like
all.
get her too
Lately,
involved.
he's
He
been
is
spending a
technically
lot of time in
investigating
one of
her.
them. He calls it the chamber because it's so big, but he refused to
He
tell
calls
me
it
what
the
he's been
chamber
doing.
because it's so big.
I was
Also,
going to
he
sneak down
loved
there and
Harry
see for
Potter and the
myself,
Chamber
but
of
the earthquake
Secrets.
caused this huge cave-in near the entrance. I can't get past it, but neither can my dad. So whatever he's been keeping down there is still there.
There's no other way to get into this chamber thing?
Yes, there is, from the water. It says so on this old
Alrighty,
chart my
okay,
dad
so
has.
now Frank
what
is
are you
going to
waiting
talk to
for?
Big
The
Island
problem
Mike.
is, you can't just
The
snorkel
Big
to the
Island Mike
entrance.
conversation
You have to ride
coming
different
up here is
currents to
kind
get
of
there.
different.
The chart
Normally, you
supposedly
only
says how
have
to do that,
two
but
ways
I've
through
never
the
been
start
able
of the
to figure it out.
conversation.
But if
This
you
one
can
has
figure it out, you
three
might be
different
able to find the
ways.
entrance.
So,
But if you do, and it turns out that my dad
oh
is doing
gosh, I'm not
something
sure
illegal,
if I'll be
I
able to
want you to
read this.
promise
Anyway,
me that
option
you
number
won't
one,
call the
Mike
police
goes, hey,
without
like I
talking
told the
to me
cops.
first.
Frank says, does that happen a
Deal.
lot?
I
Mike says,
promise
oh, a couple
I
of times
won't
a
call the
year.
police.
Frank says, is
Say
anything
it.
missing?
I
Mike
promise
goes,
I
nope,
won't
not a
call the
thing.
police
Look, whoever
unless
that
I
guy
talk to you
was.
first.
Option number two,
Okay.
Mike says,
The
hey, like
chart's
I
in
told
that
the
old
cops.
trunk in the
Frank
immersion
says, does
center.
that happen a
Open
lot?
it.
Mike
You
says,
need to
oh,
know
a
what
couple
my
of
father
times a
calls
year.
his favorite
Frank
flavor
says,
of shake.
could it have been
I
a
can never
former
remember, so
employee?
you'll have to ask
Mike
him.
goes, look,
Just don't
whoever
make
the
me
guy
sorry I
was,
trusted
he's
you.
not. He goes on like that. So, the longest version of the conversation is actually, if you
Frank,
pick
how's your brother? You back from the clinic yet?
the
No, they wanted to
second
keep him
option,
under observation
not
for
here,
a
but
while,
in a few
but he'll be
minutes.
fine. Joe's
Like
nothing
I
if
told the
not
cops, I
hard-headed.
didn't. The guy
Any
didn't. Blah
idea
blah
who
blah blah blah
clobbered him?
blah.
Like I told the cops.
Yeah, so
probably
if you
just some
select
bum who
this
wandered in off the
second
beach looking for
conversation
cash.
option here,
Does that
that's
happen a
actually
lot?
longer.
Couple times
That's
a
actually
year.
longer.
Soon as they see me, they run like
That
heck,
takes
but today I wasn't
17.34
around.
seconds. Version number 2, which I read, was 15.85 seconds, and then 14.84 seconds is the option where you ask, is anything missing? Why did I not select that option? That is faster by one minor second. What?
You make me ashamed.
Mike. Big Island Mike's making me mad here. I guess he threw me off. I lost a second there. Oh no. Oh no.
I think I can handle that.
Like I always say, a busy customer is a happy
Okay, so here at the second part of the conversation, you can ask about the police, or you could say you feel better if you knew the culprit's real identity. 4.25 seconds faster to say you'd feel better. Then when you ask about shave ice, it's about 3 seconds faster if you don't complain.
Now I'll just take this to Big Island Mike and hope that it's his favorite
So, he said Feeny when he finished the shave ice. Normally he says done or finished. There are like 3 different things he can say when he finishes. That is just random. If you really wanted to, you would save before finishing the shave ice just to get the shorter answer. You would also get that here in these conversations, because, you know, good talking to you anytime, that's pretty fine. You know, that's pretty short. It could be that you get like, hey, it was a pleasure talking to you, Mr. Big Island Mike. I really appreciate your help. And he says, well, thank you, Joe. I really appreciate your business. That would be a long sentence. So, basically, yeah, the ends of every conversation, those are just random. They're just totally randomized. So, that's just the case with every single Nancy Drew game. That particular puzzle I solved there, with you know, opening the opening the chest. That is not a random puzzle. The solution is the same, and those things start out in the same spot every single time. So I was just able to easily save my game and replay this a couple times to figure out the fastest way through that puzzle. And that was the fastest way through the puzzle. You just need to click a certain number of times for each one, either up or down, in order to get the Honiawa.
My pleasure. Bye.
Okay, so we're back to Nancy. I'm going to flip around and then go straight to her car. Like I said, it drops her off near her car, but not quite at her car, the phone warp. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to Camp Quigley. If you've seen my junior mode speedrun, which I did earlier this week, it took me 1 hour and 18 minutes.
Lens is broken.
This particular speedrun is 1 hour and 11 minutes and 1 second, so it's about 7 minutes faster. I saved that much time just through fishing. Anyway, if you saw me do my junior mode speedrun, I made a mistake with the clipboard, and I had to run to Quigley's camp and then do the clipboard at the same time as the microscope. Turns out that's a time saver, because Nancy's talking about the clipboard will interrupt her talking about the microscope. But yes, you do have to check the second page of the clipboard in order to get to Kapu Cave. You cannot enter the coordinates earlier. Nope, not allowed. Just totally not allowed. And there I turned the wrong way. Silly me. Shouldn't have done that. Okay, so yes. And now I'm just going to fill out the clipboard. You could fill this out earlier, you could fill this out later. It doesn't really matter when you fill this out, just as long as it's filled out before the end of the puzzle. And, yeah. As I said earlier, this game is very linear. You're supposed to do things in a very specific order in order to beat the game. Sometimes it's just that's how the game was made, and then other times it's just that's how you would do it in order to avoid having to take extra trips to various places. So with the Frass Puzzle, you've got a couple of choices. You know, what are you going to do first? Get all the Frass? Are you going to get the Microscope fixed first? Because those are basically the two things you need to do. So, yeah, it's basically your only variable in this puzzle.
State your business,
so this particular puzzle is one I actually kind of like. Talking to Doctor... I mean the,
turn around and leave.
Sorry, the fertilization puzzle is one I actually kind of like. This is a fun puzzle. I like it. Although...
Dr. Craven?
You'll notice it takes me about a minute just to get to the
Dr.
puzzle.
Craven, it's me, Nancy Drew. I know you're busy, but I really enjoyed talking to you before. Could I come in just for a few minutes?
Let her in.
Somewhat to my surprise, I find that I actually don't mind talking to you. You see, I have a niece
he
back in
likes
Philadelphia
me.
who's just about your age. Nice girl, spunky.
You know, I've got to
Insisted on
admire his
majoring in
honesty, although that's
English or
still kind of
sociology
mean.
or
It's like,
some such drivel.
I'm kind
Very
of
bright
surprised I
nonetheless.
don't hate you
Unfortunately,
automatically.
her father, my brother, and
That's
I
such a
don't get
jerky
along,
thing
so
to
I
say.
don't get to see her
Aww.
anymore. Anyway, what can I do for you?
What can I
need a
do for you?
microscope lens to
Well, I
complete
need the
this
microscope
job
lens.
Dr.
That's
Kim
what I
gave
need.
me. Only hers is broken. Do you have one I could use?
Of course, but I'm not running a charity here. If you want it, you'll have to earn it. The plants down below
okay, it's
need
a
to be
puzzle.
fertilized. Think you could
I
handle
think
that?
this is the fastest
I
way through the
guess.
puzzle. You know,
Good.
I tried doing it
Here's the key
a
to the
couple of
enclosure housing
times.
the plants I want
Couldn't
fertilized.
figure out a
Don't
solution, which
even
is just
think about
3
leaving
different
before you're
answers.
finished. They
The
need to be
solution is the
fed
same on
now.
junior mode and
If you
senior
make an
mode,
error,
though.
it will be immediately apparent.
So,
and
you know, I
needless
tried
to
a couple
say,
times,
I
said,
will be
it's
extremely
not that much
upset.
of a time saver
Got
if
it.
I could do it with 3 rather than 4. So that's what I went with. It's funny, it's like if you make an error, it'll be immediately apparent, and I will be immediately upset. How will he know? These plants are inside a locked box. Anyway, I actually timed that. You could say, you bet, or I guess. I timed them both. They're about 0.02 seconds apart.
That should
They're
do it.
basically the exact same time. Yeah, so it doesn't really matter which one you pick.
What is it now?
I fertilized those plants.
Good job. The microscope lens is yours. Anything else?
Nope.
I'll go now, but I really appreciate your talking to me.
All good things must end. Goodbye.
Alright, so what we're gonna do here is leave, and we're gonna get a phone
Yes?
call. Or he's gonna get a phone
What?
call.
No, no,
Now,
no, no.
this phone
Those
call
seedlings
occurs
were
after you solve the
irreplaceable.
fertilization
How could anyone
puzzle.
be that stupid?
I like how we can
Oh,
read about this
tell me his
conversation
name.
before we
Well,
hear
you
about it.
tell Mr. Fiderman that
Very
he
cute.
is fired. If he isn't
Anyway,
off the premises
you
in
could
2
use your
minutes,
phone
I will
call
go out there and
to
throw him over the
warp
fence
out of the
myself.
Kili Kili and
Oh,
skip
no.
that conversation. That's not a time saver, even though it's a bit of a long conversation, because what happens is the next time you visit the Kili Kili, you're just going to hear that conversation again. And, basically, it kind of made the game confused when I did that, because the game knew that I was there to break into the Kili Kili, meaning Dr. Craven has to be asleep,
I
and it
can't go
knew
in
that
here.
Dr.
I
Craven
have
was
to wonder
awake
what
because
this
he had just
thing
yelled at
does.
Fiderman. And so he kind of, you know, he kind of appeared in his sleeping position for a brief half second, and then he disappeared and went back to the desk. So it kind of looked like the game was trying to load sleeping, basically what happened is, tried to load Dr.
Alright.
Craven while sleeping, but it realized he shouldn't be sleeping, and so sleeping Dr. Craven was there and then disappeared. So it was not a time saver, unfortunately. It did not save me any time whatsoever. Otherwise, that would be a cool time saver. In any case, we just finished the Frass puzzle. We are Frass masters. Yes, we are. I'll put that on my resume, and then I'll never get hired again. Yeah. So, you know, solve the Frass puzzle. You don't actually have to look at the you know, the microscope or use
Well,
it. You just
I'm
have
all
to fix
done.
it.
Don't tell me, don't tell me.
So an interesting
Okay,
thing
tell me.
here,
Well, remember your
Nancy's
formula
cursor
machine came up
disappears
with
when
was
Quigley talks.
119,456?
See, it's there, and then now it's not.
Yes, yes,
I don't know why
it
that is the
really
case.
true.
I have absolutely
I've
no
stumbled upon
idea.
The biggest bloom of Norsa beta larva ever recorded. We're gonna
Alrighty,
be
so
famous,
once you
Nancy,
solve
and
the
with a
Frass
new
puzzle, you go
outrageous
back to
fact.
Quigley.
Way to
It's
go.
1 second faster
Thank
to say
you.
I'm all
I
done,
just wish I knew what
and
you
it
were
is
talking about.
6
You just
seconds
confirmed that for some
slower
reason, the
to ask
Norsa
about the
beta
Norsa
odorata
beta
in this area,
odorata.
maybe on the whole island, are reproducing at an unheard of rate.
So a very simple
And that's a big
conversation
deal?
here.
It's huge. Nothing like this has ever happened before.
So, with the
anywhere.
Kili Kili, I remember when I was playing the
as if you
game,
woke up one
Dr.
morning and
Craven
found
was
1,000
already
baby robins in
asleep
your
when
front
Nancy
yard.
was let
It
into the
just
building.
doesn't happen.
I don't know
Okay, you've
why
confirmed
that's the
what is
case or
happening.
how to
Now we need to
trigger
figure out
that.
why it's
He's going to be
happening. We
awake
need to
here.
analyze the contents
So
of
obviously it
those
would be
flash
faster
jars.
if he's
The note
already
on our
asleep.
clipboard
That
will
way
tell you how to
Nancy
go
can
about
just
it.
walk
We need to
in
know what
and
all
he'll
those
already be
motivated
asleep and you
caterpillars
get
have
to
been
avoid,
eating.
you know, talking to him. You'll see this when we actually get there, okay?
Of course, they're Frass jars. But before you start your analysis,
And then now Quigley's just going to order me to do breaking and entering. Thank you, Quigley. You're a great boss. This is why I won't get hired by anywhere else. My boss told me to break the law, and so I broke the law, and I almost got arrested for this. I almost got killed by yellow Darth Vader. It was very scary. It was the worstest. So, yeah. Okay, so just like the start of the game, this part of the game is very straightforward. I mean, like I said, even the Frass Puzzle is not that complicated. You've got two things. You get the Microscope, or you get the Frass first. It doesn't matter which order you do the two of them in. So, once we're doing that, now we need to go to the Kili Kili, get a sample, and then we're gonna leave.
State your business. Oh, it's you.
What is it now?
Yep. And so, like I said, we would skip this conversation if he's already asleep.
Yes, well,
Doesn't
the
really
bug's
matter
awake,
because the game
though.
knows he's supposed to be asleep here, so bam, he's asleep.
Dr. Craven? Sound asleep.
Yeah, that did not take long. He just automatically appears in his little sleeping chair. How did he get to his sleeping chair that quickly? Did he run? Did he teleport? He must have like just jumped over his desk and dived straight into the chair to fall asleep that quickly. It's hilarious. But, so in Junior mode, Nancy says something here about Fighterman.
All right.
We're not in Junior mode though, so she doesn't say anything about Fighterman. So it's actually a time saver. We don't hear her little thing, her little speech about Fighterman. I didn't know that was a difference between the two variations of the game, but it is. That's kind of sneaky and clever, actually. Alrighty. Okay, so there appear to be no major skips in this challenge. You have to mute the PDA, you look at the employee list, and you look at the locker assignment list. So you have to look at them in that order. You know, it was a total surprise to me that Nancy doesn't talk about the employees things. So does that mean Nancy can skip looking at the employee list and just go straight to locker assignments list? I doubt it, but it could be possible. It could be possible. So, I mean, that's something I would have to check out if I decide to speedrun this game again. Probably not going to. Definitely not this year. Definitely not next year. Yeah, probably it's gonna be like forever before I decide to speedrun one of these games again. Anyway, so you'll notice in Junior mode, Nancy talks about various things on the screen when you hover your mouse over them. She'll say like extracts codes. Ooh, that seems useful. Shipping, that seems useful too. So apparently in Senior mode, she doesn't say anything about those. So yeah, another slight difference between Senior mode and Junior mode. What you're supposed to do is hit shipping first and then extract codes second. I did extract codes, then shipping, and then extract codes. No real difference between the two. All that does is split up this conversation in half. The two things Nancy says on the extract codes screen, she says it no matter what. It's just, I just split it up into two rather than doing it all at once. Not really a time waster or time saver. Alrighty, so you grab the leaf sample and you leave. There's only one way to exit the area. Oh, also, you don't get to hear Waverly say anything in Senior mode. Yeah, that's another slight difference between the two modes. Huh. Okay, well, I tried to be careful and not double-click because I had trouble getting out of there. But don't double-click on Waverly, or, when you're right behind the guy, don't double-click. Otherwise, you will walk into him, he'll give you one of the warnings at Waverly Academy, and then you'll be kicked out.
There's that weird whispering again.
Alrighty, so here what you have to do, you absolutely have to test the frass before you test the leaf, which I thought was a little strange. Kind of tripped me up when I played this game.
Uh-oh, the color of the leaf sample from the Kili Kili doesn't match
Okay,
the
so
color
yeah,
of the
we
Frass
tested, we got,
I guess I better go tell Quigley.
Dr. Quigley sent us to get this plant from the Kili Kili so we could test it. Now we go back to her, she's going to give us more stuff to test, then we're going to go back here to test it, then we're going to go back to Dr. Kim and give her the results, and then, whew, that's going to be basically it for the rest of the game. Cool. Okay, so most of these conversations are very much, there's no options, really, yeah. Like, you'll see,
Quigley,
we don't get a
can I
chance
talk
to
to you?
pick option 1 or option 2.
Right
So if you had seen the, if you'd seen the webs at Kapu Cave, this is the point in the game where Quigley would talk to you about the webs.
Been growing at the Kili Kili.
Because the conversation about the webs happens when Quigley is up at the top of the tree and not down talking to you.
Open my pack down there. Take out the container of canopy samples I've collected.
I also noticed Nancy's dialogue is a different color in this particular conversation. It's sort of yellow. Normally her dialogue is light blue. Don't know why that is the case. It's just, I don't know. It's just, that's just the way the game is programmed, I guess. So we're running all the way back to Dr. Kim's camp. This is kind of a boring part. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're doing a speedrun or you're playing this game normally. You're just ping-ponging back between the camp and Quigley and the camp and Quigley. Alrighty, so obviously you save time by only testing the one thing that you need to test. And then you turn around and go.
A match. So, looks like those caterpillars have been eating frittolated
Unfortunately, it doesn't look like there's anything, any way to like skip that conversation. That's obviously one of the conversations where you just sit in place and wait for Nancy to finish talking. It'd be nice if there was something quick to interrupt her with, like maybe, you know, checking the to-do list, and that would cut off her talking, and then you could immediately leave rather than hearing her talk for several seconds. That would only be a minor time saver. Really, I think only the time savers left in this run are minor time savers, unless somebody could figure out a way to skip something major.
Quigley?
That would not be a minor time saver, but you know, anything that would save at least a half minute, I would say would be a major time saver. And, you know, as I was guessing earlier, it might be faster to do the seashells. Might be. I haven't tested it, but, you know, I think that's probably the potential for the biggest time saver.
But if your analysis is correct,
okay, so Nancy has two things you can say here. My timing showed that the first option is 0.07 seconds faster. So yeah, you know, not really a huge difference between the two. Not really a difference between the two.
Where are you going?
Okay, so what we're gonna do here at this point is go back to Kapu Cave. Quigley's gonna tell you. She tells you to grab the metal nose ring, which was in her pack the entire time. Imagine, you could have skipped like most of the game just by opening her pack at the very beginning. Yeah, if somebody could figure a way to trigger this conversation about the nose ring, like at the very beginning, oh my gosh, that would be a time saver. That would cut like a half hour out of this run. That would be amazing. Alright, so with the Kapu Cave, it's going to be a lot like the Honiawa puzzle, you know, the one we had at Big Island Mike's, where the pieces are always going to start off in the exact same place. So that means rotating them is pretty easy, because you're going to have the exact same rotation every single time. I saved a little bit of time by pulling out the nose ring now. Unfortunately, I clicked in the wrong area. I tried to click the top of the nose rather than the nostrils. It's kind of hard to see the nostrils there, in my defense. But yeah, it's
I can move his teeth now.
Yeah, minor time saver saves probably a little less than a second to yeah, about a second, I guess, to get that nostril nose ring in as soon as possible. But yeah, so with the teeth, like I said, they're always in the same starting positions. Ooh, I'm going to be quiet here. Listen to this.
You have reached
Oh, okay, well listen to Nancy's message. She's going to assume that she already told Frank about Kapu Cave.
Frank, it's Nancy. Hey, remember that creepy face that had been carved into a wall? The one with all the pictures on his teeth?
Yeah,
Well,
Nancy, the game thinks Nancy has already called him about the cave, which she has not. She has not. She has not. So that's kind of funny. I thought that was funny. But yeah, so don't spin the 2 teeth that are already in place. That's your time saver.
No wonder it's so hot in here.
Yeah, that's kind of a pretty obvious time saver, actually. But there it is. So once you enter Kapu Cave, you know, no way to speed up these puzzles. Just run forward as fast as you can, then you're going to turn left. Run forward, turn left. Oh, I already did that. I'm describing old things. Sorry about that. But basically, run forward, turn left, pull a thing, go forward, and then go forward here to the end. Stop here. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause for a minor second there. Didn't want to get a game over. You get a game over if you accidentally click, and that's what I did in my junior mode speedrun, so I was trying to avoid that happening. Okay, so this is pretty simple. You put these blocks in the correct spots, and then the game's going to switch over to your hardy boy, Frank. So at this point you would go fishing if you don't have 30 Big Island bucks. You could always do it earlier if you don't have 30 Big Island bucks. In any case, only one puzzle here. I skipped fishing. I've already got my snorkeling gear, so I'm going to go through the scuba gear maze. I'm going to scuba through the maze. The solution is left, right, left, right, left, right.
Whatever's behind it. I don't know if or how this helps you, but I just thought I'd let you know.
You have to look at the eel before entering this maze, I believe. Otherwise, you can't just go in. You have to go, that eel, that eel. Yeah, he's gonna look at that eel. That eel. That's more what it sounds like. I don't know why I'm doing impersonations of Frank visiting eels. That eel. That eel. That eel. This random fight between Pua and her dad. Okay. Yeah, she's very, very mad at him. Yep. Presumably they're fighting. Oh, here we go.
That eel.
That eel! Yeah! So if you did this earlier on in the game, there would be that eel. That eel would be in that place, and it would prevent you from going to the rest of the currents. Frank would say, oh no, that eel means business, and it basically would just prevent you from reaching the endgame challenge. So if somebody could figure out a way to beat the eel, that could be a time saver. That probably would be a time saver. I don't know. I don't think there's a way to get rid of the eel besides opening up Kapu Cave on Nancy's end. And so it wouldn't be, you know, if somebody could figure out a way to do it without going to Kapu Cave, great, huge time saver. Not sure that's possible. Okay, and we're gonna run as fast as we can, going all the way to the exit. And this is going to get us to the endgame challenge.
Holy cow,
basically, just want to navigate this cave as quickly as possible.
Whatever's inside those canisters, those beetles are going for it. Big time.
Frank, what are you doing here?
Alright,
well,
not much to talk about
She gave me a
here.
map.
We've got...
What is all this?
A huge, terrible mistake, that's what it is. I've made Kili mad.
Well,
How did you get in here?
got minutes before they finish talking. They're going to be explaining the main storyline of the game for a while.
Way in here. So I let you figure out that chart, and then yes, I followed you.
It's over.
Yeah, so this is
I'm
what
dumping those things right now.
she was fighting
Dad,
about
no,
with her dad.
We're in too deep. We've got to go through with it now.
Wait a minute. You're in this, whatever it is, together?
We're all
If and
in
when the Kili
this
Center shuts down,
together.
and it's on records to
Can't
us.
you
Land we
see
could
that
turn right
we
around and
are
sell to
will
developers.
stars in
So I
a
used
sea
John and Kili to
that...
steal us some chemicals that would make insects start destroying the pineapples. And made it sound like Kane Okala was back to keep people out of the jungle so they wouldn't see us spraying. And then we spread the rumor that whatever was killing the pineapples was the Kili Kili's fault.
My father owes a lot of money to some really bad people. That's why we did it. And if you could just not tell anyone about this, everything will be fine.
No pool.
I
Perry
promise
destroyed
I
the
won't
tunnel
call
for
the
a reason. She
police
was telling
until
us
I
to
talk to you
stop.
first. Well, I talked to you, now I'm calling the police. Okay, in any case, Nancy shows up here and interrupts the conversation. She's seeing it from a different angle. Hi, Nancy.
The earthquake was a warning. This isn't right, and if we don't stop next...
Oh, here's another mistake for everything wrong with. You see where Pua was standing there? Pua kind of morphs from right there by her dad to the opposite side of the board from her dad. And as you saw, those pieces that she would have been able to walk over are not there anymore. You saw those pieces get dropped. So yeah, I don't know how she moved. Of course, Frank and Big Island Mike both moved too. So
and head for the stairs in front of you.
all right, so time for the Endgame challenge. I used to think this puzzle was completely random. It turns out there's a little bit of a strategy to it. So if you jump, the entire row/column is going to move in the direction you jumped. So for example, Frank's going to jump down. Look at all the blocks in Frank's column. They're all going to move down one. So now Frank's going to move down right. All the things in that row are going to move over one. Alright, next Frank is going to move up, so everything in that column is going to go up one. You can see that, right? Does that make sense? You know, whatever direction you're jumping in, everything in that row or column is going to move over one in the direction you jumped. So there is some randomness to the puzzle in terms of, you know, where Big Island Mike is going to jump. But other than that, you can kind of control what's going on just with how you're jumping. So what I do is I go over to the right-hand side here. Now I'm going to jump left, up, right, up, and down, and then to the exit. So basically all I'm doing is going over here. I'm going to jump up. You'll notice I hit a wall here, so that won't move any of the pieces. That's another rule of the puzzle. It'd be nice if these rules were explained. Alas, they are not. Okay, so I jumped right here to put two pieces in the second from right column. Now I'm going to go up again. So because I have two pieces in the second from right column, I can easily go down, moving myself straight to the exit. And that is one way to beat the puzzle. Another way, I'm not quite sure how to do it. Another way is to attack it from the left. You know, play around with the pieces that are directly to the left of the exit. But, you know, it took me long enough to find that solution I got there. So I'm sticking with it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
And all of us managed to get out of the cave.
Yeah. Okay. So, believe it or not, I actually saw myself make a mistake during that ending scene right there when I was recording this commentary. So I went back and re-recorded. I actually managed to save 4 seconds by cutting out an unnecessary jump. So that's good. That's good. So that makes this run in total 1 hour, 10 minutes, in 57 seconds. Yes. So, yeah, this is basically the end of the game. Something I don't think I've mentioned. What I did during the that puzzle, the endgame puzzle, and with the GPS screen is I moved my mouse. So you can move your mouse while the GPS is loading and while the characters are jumping. And obviously it's faster if you can move your mouse to the place where you're going to click next and then just click immediately. It's really difficult. I didn't get it all the time, but I got it sometimes, I believe. I mean, look, you know that, hey, Kapu Cave's in the lower left, so move your mouse to the lower left. You know Camp Quigley's in the upper right, so move your mouse to the upper right. Even though you can't see it, you're still going to be a little bit closer than you would have been otherwise. Alright, so that's basically it for my speedrun for the Creature of Kapu Cave. It'd be cool to see if there's a way to make this run even shorter, you know, to beat the game in under an hour. That would be pretty amazing. I think the best hope for improving the time is basically, you know, using shells. You know, making seashell necklaces. That seems to be, maybe it could be faster than fishing. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not sure it's 10 minutes faster, although I did spend a good amount of time fishing, so who knows. But yeah, if anybody could discover a major skip, like getting the nose ring early, or finding
was working
you know,
with
finding out all the Frass stuff
how the
early,
pressure
you know, like
moving
seeing the
deep
microscope
caused
is
the
broken
Kili Kili to
early.
close its
That would
doors.
save time. That would save you a
That
trip
thanks to
back
Frank
to
and
Quigley's
Joe
camp.
and
That
Dr.
would save you
Kim
about a
and yours
minute, so
truly,
that would be
Monopoly's
good.
plot was exposed,
So if
and the
anybody could figure
fibrillated
out something
flag
like
beetle
that, then I
population
think,
quickly fell to its normal size.
yeah,
As
that would
did
be
that of
that
the
would be
North
a
Odorata
major skip.
So,
But
how
other
did
than
I
that,
spend
I
the
think
rest
it's
of my
just
time
minor
on the Big
stuff
Island?
like getting
Well,
Big
let's
Island
just
bucks
say when it comes to
faster
cleaning
and clicking
Frass
around
jars,
faster.
I am an
I
expert.
think that's the only room for improvement. But if you have any ideas, please leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to see if anybody else has any ideas on how to beat this game more quickly. So, thank you very much for watching my speedrun. I hope you enjoyed watching me beat this game in under an hour and 11 minutes.